On a freezing January morning in Minneapolis, just before sunrise, I watched a neighbor start his car the way almost everyone does. He turned the key, heard the engine groan, and immediately pressed the accelerator to help it along. The engine rattled, the idle surged, and within seconds he pulled away hard, late for work. Today, I am revealing why that exact routine, done by millions of drivers every winter, is one of the fastest ways engines quietly destroy themselves without ever setting off a warning light. Most drivers believe engine failure is about bad luck or bad parts. A defective bearing, a weak piston ring, a design flaw. But that is not how most engines actually die. They fail from accumulated damage, and a massive portion of that damage happens during the first few minutes after a cold start. Not while cruising, not at highway speed, not under load on a hot day. It happens when everything inside the engine is at its most vulnerable and the driver thinks nothing is wrong. Cold starts are deceptive because the car usually still works. It starts, it drives. The radio turns on, the heater blows air. Nothing catastrophic happens, and because nothing dramatic occurs, drivers assume their habits are harmless. But engines do not fail dramatically at first. They fail quietly, one microscopic scrape at a time. When temperatures drop, your engine becomes a hostile environment for its own components. Oil thickens dramatically. At freezing temperatures, engine oil can flow 10 times slower than it does when warm. It does not matter if you use synthetic oil or conventional oil. Cold is cold. That thick oil takes time to reach critical components like camshaft lobes, crankshaft bearings, piston skirts, and timing chains. During those first seconds after startup, many metal surfaces are barely protected at all. Engineers have a term for this condition: boundary lubrication. That means there is not a full film of oil separating metal parts. Instead, surfaces are touching, sliding, and scraping with only a thin chemical layer between them. This is where the majority of long-term engine wear occurs. Studies have shown that a single cold start can produce as much wear as dozens of miles of warm driving. Some estimates put it closer to 50 or 60 miles worth of wear before you even leave your driveway. At the same time, your battery is struggling. Cold temperatures reduce battery output dramatically. At 0 degrees Fahrenheit, a battery may only deliver about half of its rated power. That slow, labored cranking sound you hear is not just annoying. It is extending the amount of time your engine spins without proper oil pressure. The longer it cranks, the longer metal parts grind together dry. Fuel delivery also suffers. Cold fuel does not atomize well. Instead of a fine mist, the injectors spray larger droplets. Those droplets do not burn completely. Unburned fuel washes past piston rings and ends up in the oil, thinning it and reducing its ability to protect metal surfaces. This is one reason oil becomes contaminated faster in winter, and why engines that see frequent cold starts often develop sludge and accelerated wear, even with regular oil changes. Then there is the issue most drivers hear but do not understand: noise. The tapping, knocking, or rattling sound during cold starts is not just normal engine noise. It is mechanical clearance at its worst. Metal contracts in the cold. Pistons shrink more than cylinder walls. Bearings lose optimal fit. That allows pistons to rock slightly in their bores, a phenomenon called piston slap. Every cold start where you hear that noise is a moment where material is literally being shaved away. Modern engines are not immune to this. In fact, many are more vulnerable. Low-tension piston rings reduce friction, but allow more blow-by when cold. Thin oils improve efficiency, but offer less margin during boundary lubrication. Direct injection increases combustion pressure and carbon formation. Turbochargers add extreme rotational speeds to the mix. All of this means cold start damage matters more now than it did decades ago. What makes this so dangerous is that the engine compensates. Computers adjust the fuel mixture, idle speed increases, timing is altered. Everything is done to make the engine feel smooth enough that the driver ignores the warning signs. The engine protects drivability, not longevity. And this is where most drivers unknowingly make things worse. They rev the engine to warm it up. They drive aggressively right away. They let the car idle for long periods, thinking they are being gentle. Each of these habits prolongs the time the engine spends in its most damaging state. Cold start damage does not announce itself. It does not trip a check engine light. It does not cause immediate failure. It accumulates slowly until one day the engine starts burning oil, losing compression, or developing an unexplained knock. At that point, people blame mileage or age. They never connect it to thousands of mornings that all started the same way. The uncomfortable truth is this: most engines do not wear out evenly. They are front-loaded with damage during cold starts, and the way you handle those first few minutes determines how long the engine will live. Two identical cars, driven the same miles, can have wildly different engine health purely based on cold start habits. And here is where things get even more interesting. Some of the common advice drivers follow in winter, advice passed down for generations, is exactly what accelerates this damage instead of preventing it. Habits that feel logical, comforting, even responsible are quietly shortening engine life every single day. That is what we need to talk about next. Because once you understand what actually happens inside your engine during a cold start, the mistakes become obvious. And more importantly, the correct way to start and warm up your car becomes almost painfully simple. Most drivers are doing it wrong, and that is why engines fail long before they should. By the time most engines finally fail, the damage that caused it is long forgotten. There is no dramatic moment, no single cold morning where everything went wrong. Instead, there is a quiet pattern that repeats thousands of times, each start shaving away microscopic layers of protection until the engine crosses a line it cannot come back from. This is why cold start damage is so dangerous. It does not feel like abuse. It feels normal. Engines do not usually die from redline abuse or missed oil changes alone. They die from accumulated wear that never had a chance to heal. And cold starts are the most efficient way to stack that damage invisibly. Bearings do not fail suddenly. They thin. Rings do not break. They lose tension. Cylinder walls do not crack overnight. They polish themselves smooth until oil cannot cling anymore. By the time symptoms show up, the harm is already baked in. This is where most drivers get misled. They think engine wear is about mileage, but engines do not age by miles. They age by cold cycles. A car driven 150,000 highway miles with proper warm-ups can be healthier than one driven 60,000 miles in short winter trips. That is not theory. That is what tear-down inspections show again and again. Taxi fleets, delivery vans, commuter cars, engines with brutal duty cycles, but correct warm-up habits routinely outlast pampered vehicles started cold every morning and shut down 10 minutes later. The most damaging myth is that newer engines are designed for this. They are not. They are designed to survive it just long enough to meet emissions targets and warranty expectations. Modern engines are actually less tolerant of cold abuse. Tighter clearances, thinner oils, low tension rings, and higher combustion pressures all mean there is less margin for error. When something goes wrong, it goes wrong faster. That is why oil analysis from cold climate vehicles tells such a consistent story. Elevated fuel dilution, high wear metals early in the oil's life, moisture that never fully burns off, acids that should have evaporated but did not. These are not failures. They are symptoms of repeated cold starts done incorrectly. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Most of that damage happens before you leave your street. The engine does not care that you are late. It doesn't care that it sounds fine. Sound is a terrible indicator of lubrication. An engine can be quiet while starving. It can feel smooth while metal is touching metal. The engine control unit will mask roughness. Engine mounts will absorb vibration. The damage continues anyway. But here is the part that matters most. This damage is not inevitable. Cold weather does not kill engines. Habits do. The correct cold start routine is boring. That is why it is not shared. There is no product to sell, no dramatic before and after, just discipline. Start the engine. Let it idle briefly, long enough for oil pressure to stabilize, not long enough to stay cold. 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Then drive gently, keeping engine revolutions per minute low and keeping load light. Let heat build evenly. Let oil catch up to coolant. Let clearances normalize gradually. This single habit changes everything. It shortens the time your engine spends in boundary lubrication. It reduces fuel washdown. It allows rings to seal before pressure spikes. It protects bearings before high loads are applied. It warms the transmission fluid instead of shocking it. It brings the catalytic converter online faster. And most importantly, it stops you from stacking damage in the one window where engines are most vulnerable. The difference shows up years later, not days later. Engines treated this way do not develop mystery oil consumption. They do not suddenly knock at startup. They do not lose compression unevenly. They do not feel tired long before their time. When teardown inspections are done, these engines show smoother bearing surfaces, cleaner ringlands, and far less cylinder wall wear. That is not luck. That is physics working in your favor. This is also why long idling is such a trap. It feels gentle, but it extends the worst conditions. Cold oil, rich mixtures, moisture accumulation, carbon formation. You are protecting nothing while delaying everything that matters. Engines warm fastest under light load, not at no load. Once you understand this, you start noticing patterns everywhere. The car that just started burning oil, the engine that never liked winter, the motor that was fine until last year. These are not mysteries. They are the final chapters of habits formed long ago. No one connects the dots because the cause and effect are separated by years. And that is exactly why this topic matters. Because the next cold start you do correctly does not just help today. It protects the engine 5 winters from now. It is the difference between an engine that fades quietly and one that stays predictable long past expectations. Most drivers will never change this habit. They will keep starting, idling, revving, and driving hard too soon because that is how they have always done it. Statistically, many of those engines will fail early without anyone ever knowing why. But you will not. You now understand that the most dangerous moment in your engine's life happens every single morning in winter. And the fix is not expensive, complicated, or inconvenient. It is awareness and restraint. If this changed how you think about starting your car, leave a comment. If you want to learn the oil mistake that can undo all of this protection in one service interval, that is what we are breaking down next.